Go7, Go7. Go7, king of the game. I believe in you, that's what he'll say. Nice and kind, leading cobalt ice. He's a blue, cute, and deadly little guy. Seeing through the fog, old gods he's slayed. Go7, 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 Go7. Go7, 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 Go7. Go7, king of the game. I believe in you, that's what he'll say. Nice and kind, leading cobalt ice. He's a blue, cute, and deadly little guy. Seeing through the fog, old gods he's slayed. Go7, 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 Go7. Go7, 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 Go7.
Hello, hello, hello. Is my mic okay? My mic's working. Let's put on our little bow tie. Happy days. Dark Raider says fourth. Why can't I hear the music? That's why. Now I can hear the music. Let's not double the music though. There we go. There we go. Hello, hello. Pixel arrived in time. Wahoo says yo. Dark Raider says fourth despite being first. Shadow says all hail the king of the penguins. Full egoism has got the eyes. And Mega Man Zero says hello, go. Well, hello to you too. As we can see, the most recent game that's finished is Go7 versus Lusciel. Sammy versus Jess in Dragons in the Dark. This is a very rare occurrence. Let's see if I can show it to you guys. Ah. Who also completed? Wait, what? 1 second. Who dares? Rip dares. Ah. Well. For a day. For a day, there was only 1 out of 8 of the divisions completed here, and the one division was my division. For the first time ever, I completed games faster than other players. But then Rip had to go and ruin it and complete the game. So now it's 2 out of 8. No, it didn't finish first, Rip. It did not. I remember because I looked and it said 1 out of 8 when my game was over. Unless it just hadn't updated and it was your game, not my game. That's possible. Grit is allowed in tier 4. That is possible. Did your game really finish before mine? I remember looking and seeing 1 out of 8. Be like, oh my gosh, I did it. But Rip, if you're gonna just steal my thunder. Ooh. 2. This last updated 217. And mine was 218, wasn't it? Dang it. You completed a day earlier than mine. Oh, Walker needed to update it manually. Oh, okay. Then I'll still take it. I'm still take it. There might be a Go7 Rip match in the future once all the divisions finish. That's true. We don't know who won this. Spoilers. Hello. This nightmare map. This map was made by Zoronix, otherwise known as Everdan, one of the top players of all time. I did convince JJ to let Grit into the tier 4 on this map. Very few people have chosen Grit, I think. Havitz is convinced he's broken. And there's definitely some strong points for Grit. Sonja loves this map. Sonja is pretty good on this map. You just tried walking infantry all the way around through the forest to surprise cap your comm tower. It can happen. Against some COs, that's a lot better than others. Usually, it's kind of a folly choice because it's so difficult to hold that comm tower. So, for the most part, I think it's fine to leave these comm towers undefended because it's really easy for you to win any fight over this comm tower when you've got 2 bases and an airport that can just kind of, or really 3 bases that can all directly feed into this fight. And they've pretty much got 1 base and an airport, and you've got more forests on your side. I think it's kind of it's fine to steal the comm tower. I think it's always a trap to try and like protect it after you steal it. I think you just steal it for a little bit of the time and let them take it back. Otherwise, you'll lose too much stuff. Yeah, sometimes you can get surprise caps on the airports. This one especially can get captured a lot. Put a rocket 5 tiles west of the comm tower. The problem is the rocket fires and then it has to hit an infantry, which is a horrible cost-effective trade, and then all the units come and find your rocket, and it's really hard to protect it. And it's also hard to get a rocket over there. Lots of people try and sneak recons through these woods, or around the outer edge, and then if you get a recon in these woods, you can get some nice information. Like you can see both airports and this base, for instance. Some long-term plans. But yeah, so I'm Sammy here. I'm very comfortable playing Sammy on this map. It wasn't my intention to play Sammy. The game started sooner than I thought it would, so I just got to stick with my instant locks. The initial website's pick for me, which was Sammy. Luckily, I've played Sammy on this map before. I'm very comfortable playing Sammy even in fog. There's actually an APC rush that you can do to just try and snag the HQ. I don't do it because I didn't really want to win that way. And it's possible to stop if you just being really aware of it on top of your game with your early recons and stuff like that. That happened to you when you got locked into Jess on a tier 1 match? That hurts. It's a somewhat interesting matchup. Vehicle specialist versus infantry specialist. It's true. Yeah, you can just rush this down with an APC really quickly. But I did not do that. Although if you're playing against Sammy on this map, I would hope that you are prepared to defend your HQ because it doesn't have a black mode on it. So, in this matchup, Jess tends to just kind of gobble up as many infantry as she can with the early game vehicles. So my plan was, as you know, as me being Go7, early airports, I mean, I think it's a pretty easy call that I would want to go for transport copters. So for once, I stayed disciplined and I did not build early T-copters, okay? Okay, I was like, you know what? I'm going to hold it back, and in the mid-game, I'm just going to have a lot of T-copters. In the early game, I'm going to build tanks so I can beat up the recons that are going to go after my infantry. And then there's 3 different parts of the map that I want to target as Sammy. There's this comm tower, there's the HQ, and there's this comm tower. And it's really difficult for Jess to protect all of those well enough so that I can't get any of them. And if I get either of these comm towers, it makes going for the HQ easier. So there's a lot of possible like cascading victories for me, where like I get this comm tower and that makes it so I can then get this comm tower, which then lets me get this HQ because I like still have my victory march active and have quadruple comm tower and that kind of thing. Yeah. For maps that have multiple comm towers, they definitely favor that. They're good for Sammy because that's nice, valuable targets for your victory marches for really big swing turns. That's very good. In general, you would expect, I think most people would expect Sammy to try and play on the sides with the infantry because the middle is really open. But something I know, and from experience, is that this base kind of sucks for most people. But if you have a transport copter or 2 transport copters, it suddenly becomes amazing for Sammy. Because you just build a mech every turn, hop in your transport copter from here, and then go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, drop off right on the missile platform in the middle of the map. So even though the terrain of the middle doesn't look amazing for infantry, like there's like a mountain, the fact that you can deliver mechs from your back base, that's usually terrible, directly into the center suddenly makes it a really nice strong point for Sammy once you've got the transport copter chains flowing. And ideally you would do it with 2 transport copters. You'd have one always being dropped off here, and then you'd either drop off like into these woods or onto this missile platform or over onto the city, that kind of thing. Then you just swap out every turn, so you just do a mech every single turn. The other thing that's really nice for Sammy is that this is a fairly high income map with triple base, double airport. So if Sammy it's very easy to reach like 22k income, for instance. So you just kind of have a nice amount of income to go mech, battlecopter, transport copter. Or you can go mech, battlecopter, and then float some money and then go mech, battlecopter. You can just kind of get a lot of use out of all of your production facilities as Sammy, due to mechs being really cheap and having multiple airports. Where most COs, it's going to be kind of awkward to try and utilize both airports, but it's something that Sammy can actually do sometimes. So the problem with anti-air, right, so you might think that, because anti-air will one-shot mechs, but mechs will one-shot anti-airs. And anytime a mech, or an anti-air comes in and kills a mech, as long as you've got more mechs around, which you will, because mechs are a lot cheaper than anti-airs, you're going to win that trade. It's going to 5,000 value victory for you. So they have to build a lot of anti-airs. And you can try and just overwhelm that with just an absurd number of mechs, but you can also have break turns where you don't build mechs, instead you go like a neo tank or a medium tank, and then suddenly the anti-air's like, I don't know how to deal with this right now, and you can kind of bring out those counter units to join amongst your sea of mechs. But yeah, it's difficult for the anti-air to be a true counter to the mech, just because the anti-air costs almost triple what the mech does. But yeah, it is a concern. The artillery is usually a pretty effective counter to mechs, but they aren't against Sammy mechs, because Sammy mechs can get some really nice movement boosts. And suddenly the mechs can pressure the artillery. Assuming there's enough income on the map. You'd more want to use like heavy vehicles to deal with the mechs in a way that the mechs don't necessarily just absolutely knock them out. If it's reasonable numbers of units, then the anti-air will be really good. Well, usually against Sammy, what you want to do is build a bunch of recons early on, so that like you won't stop the cities from being captured, but you'll kill off the infantry. And as soon as you get Sammy's infantry count or foot soldier count low, that's when Sammy falls into the death spiral, because Sammy needs to build vehicles in order to like keep up with you in the vehicle fight. But Sammy's like day-to-day is just negative for vehicles, and both of her powers only affect foot soldiers. So that's when Sammy gets really sad, is when her foot soldier count gets really low and just kind of death spirals out of the game. But yeah, anyway, the way I'm going to approach this game is I want to go early tanks just to keep my foot soldier count fairly healthy and go for some nice contested cities early on. And then I want to transition into just absolute sinful amounts of mech spam and transport copter spam, followed up by battlecopters and a few heavy vehicles. And I want to pressure this comm tower, I want to pressure this comm tower, and I want to pressure this HQ. And this means I'm going to have quite a big early presence actually going for the center, expecting there to be recons for trying to go for every side. And my early game tanks will be able to get a small tempo victory for me. Yeah, Jess does have the nice advantage of not needing too many foot soldiers to fight foot soldier versus foot soldier. If it's a vehicle, if Lusciel manages to kill off a bunch of my foot soldiers and this comes down to a vehicle fight, I would be in a lot of trouble. It's really difficult to defend the HQ against an aggressive Sammy. Ooh, this is a very cute, a cute path Lucille's taking to get to this this base. It's very difficult to defend your HQ on this map against Sammy for the same reason I was talking about before, with how the different comm tower captures can cascade into more victories. Because as soon as if Sammy has Victory March going and quadruple comm tower, it's going to be really difficult to have a unit on there that the mechs can't just take out. Because that's a lot of firepower. You can put like a medium tank on there and stuff like that. Like a tank or a copter is not going to be enough. Oh, yeah. So here you're going to see I'm doing a little city skip. The plan is... I did some city skips before as well, but the plan is this guy's going to go for this property. This guy captured here is going to go for this property, and then they're both going to go for these center properties at the same time as I back it up with some vehicles. You could put a fighter or a bomber on there, but that's an expensive investment. So yeah. But it's an investment. It's kind of like the Sammy tax. You have to play around the fact that Sammy can just kind of take your HQ, and if you don't play around it, then you're playing with fire. So yeah, I did not go straight for the airport. I did consider it, but I figured it would be a little too dangerous. Surprisingly to me, Lusciel actually goes tank first. I think going recon first against Sammy's pretty much always the play. Especially against me, you would expect me to go for Transfer Copter. So here I'm going to sneak out a mech. I feel like I probably... I'm not super happy about my tank timing here. I think I could have had the tank a turn later, so I could have gone for either an early artillery or an earlier mech, because those would be slower units to make it to the front. I think this tank almost spends the turn just sitting around doing nothing. Which is, of course, not ideal. So the mech's going to go along these mountains and into this wood, into these woods. Yeah, and then I built another tank. I think an artillery with this could have been good. That's okay. Got a recon chilling on the city. It's a decent spot to stand. I'm not going to have a very easy time to kill it, and it does stop my infantry from stepping onto it. To start a capture. Then we have an artillery coming up from Lusciel. Now, the artillery are usually a pretty standard unit to see on this map, just because of how many vehicle brawls can happen here, and the artillery can kind of win those, especially if you use this like mountain and cities to be part of your wall to protect it. I'm doing, because I've done some city skips while Lusciel hasn't, I have a little bit of a map control advantage here. You can see my units have gone a little bit further out than Lusciel's have, or my infantry have. So yeah, I'm going to be aggressive. I'm going to attack this recon with this infantry. Because I'm Sammy, as long as my infantry has 7 or more health, it will still capture a city in 2 turns, so I can be a little bit greedy here. And I don't think that there's very many options for Lusciel other than to use some like vehicles to hit this infantry. Like, this guy could step onto the city to strike here, but then a tank's not striking my tank from the city. And I'm imagining Lusciel, in my eyes here, it's either Lusciel has a bunch of recons and so my tank attack is free, or Lusciel is going to attack my tank with the tank from the city, in which case all my infantry are safe. Now, Lusciel has also much faster comm tower captures going on here. With a slightly delayed economy, you can see Lusciel's going to actually end the turn even in income, which is obviously not where you want to be. You want to be half a turn ahead. You get this nice 9-4. But of course, this is Fog of War, so I can kind of just run away. And I feel comfortable going for the city because I know that this tank is right here, and I think the follow-up tanks are just going to be defending it. So I don't think that my infantry here is in any danger of really dying. I know there's a 3 health recon over here, which I think can reach, but it can't interrupt me because I'm Sammy. It can just kind of smack me and maybe die in the retail. So yeah, I'm just going to run back, heal up on the city. I know that I have more income than my opponent because I control the center, and I can see that this isn't captured, and I'm going for this capture. And you can see my transport copters straight over here towards this base. I want to get this up and running pretty quickly. So Lusciel's doing a pretty good job getting these comm towers down, so definitely ready to brawl me. If a big fight happens right now, then Lusciel's going to have a really nice advantage. And so there's a fight starting. Lusciel's going to try and take my city from me. How rude. The artillery guarding it is a nice choice, because that means I'm probably going to send something to interrupt it. In the end, the artillery can just bop whatever I send in. If I weren't auto-locked into Sammy, who would I have picked? I probably would have either picked Sammy or Grit. I might have chosen Grit just because I lobbied for Grit to be allowed. Even though I hate playing Grit. So yeah, I have no fear. Send the recon in. Send the tank in. All I really want to do is somewhat lower my opponent's vehicle count here while I start to get my mech army up and running. These tanks are kind of useless for me at this point. So I'm just going to send them in and try and get a city off of it. We're going to have our little artillery stare off here. And you can see I've got a bunch of recons because I want to have vision to help out my foot soldier army. And some speedy units. What's the logic behind Grit being tier 4 on this map? Well, Grit looks like he's... from my logic, Grit looks like he's kind of cool on this map because there's so many forests. But because there's so many forests and artillery are awful at traveling through forests, he's going to be like really weak on the sides, and actually his strongest point is going to be in the center, where he can get his artillery pretty quickly to be deployed. But the center only has 2 properties, and almost all of the COs in the tier have movement powers. So assuming they attack on the sides, they can then just kind of sandwich in and scoop up all of the artillery that for the most part will be exposed in the center. But they should always get an income advantage against him because he's so much weaker on the sides. And I'm not 100% convinced he could even capture the cities in the center. I think he just has a really easy time denying them. But we'll see. Some people are playing him. You dread missions against Grit and the Grit missions you fight in the campaign in Fog of War. It's just Grit with a bunch of bits. If Grit's got pre-deployed units, then yeah, he's great. My infantry dies. Sad days. Sad days. Okay, so this is kind of what I was talking about with Jess can pick off. You'll get the city, but then Jess can pick off your infantry. And it's a little dangerous for me. I do have a lot of foot soldiers being produced here. You see last turn I went for a triple mech turn, and I built another transport copter. I currently have 3 of them. So I'm going to fire with the artillery, just try and get essentially 2 tanks for 2 tanks. And then this is going to be, of course, trying to interrupt here. And I'm starting to move. I see that there's an attack over here, but it's not going to be very well backed up because this is where most of the vehicles are. So if I can just keep most of the vehicles here, right as I can deploy mechs directly into the fight, then I can have a very small force make a lot of headway over here. So I'll just make sure the transport copter is outside of the recon's range. Drop the mech down, and then make sure, and then have these infantry in range to save this city, and then I can leapfrog from this position into threatening the comm tower and the HQ, provided I can keep Jess's army on this section of the map. This will be a strong enough force to pretty much get whatever I want done with the battlecopter support. You won the Drake mirror and an Olaf mirror. Congratulations. And yeah, you can see the mechs being deployed here so quickly. They kind of make it tough for Jess to even attack these recons. And at this point, there's always the threat of double time as well. Maybe Jess should have attacked them. Maybe not. I don't know. Yeah, decides to play it safe. Gonna take out that recon. I would have loved to attack from this side so that the city wasn't available to be attacked from, but then I wouldn't have the 2 tiles available to attack this infantry, and that's not acceptable. And I'm not too worried about Jess fighting me over here because I would be fighting in range of my airport. But I do bring up another mech just in case. And you can see another triple mech turn. There's a good 4 transport copters on the field. The max I would probably go to is 6, but I'm pretty happy with 4. That means I can have 2 on this front, on this base eventually. So it can just constantly produce mechs, and then on these other bases I can alternate between vehicles and mechs. So I'm gonna, I think about this a lot. So I want to attack over here so that the army of Jess are farther away from this comm tower and the HQ. And if they're kind of stuck, right? I am threatening this comm tower with a victory march once I get it. And I'm moving towards this one. So the Jess army kind of has to choose. I don't know if I chose the right move of moving this mech here. It was like I either have it here or I have it on the road. I think the road's probably better. The problem with having the mech here, and this is something to think about whenever you have a unit hiding in the woods, is the unit that comes and attacks my mech will reveal what's in the woods. Ideally, you have them waste an entire unit just revealing the unit in the woods, not getting an attack out of it. So I was like, I guess it's fine. I should have just had it on the road. It would have been better, even though it's worse terrain. Sometimes you gotta suck up the worst terrain. So Lusciel goes for the normal power here. Attacks my mech. Very rude. And yeah, the tank can come in, it can one-shot the mech, and then that reveals the artillery. Lusciel's going for the run for my comm tower. You can see how all of these different defense points really weigh down on Lusciel's army here. So Lusciel's definitely won this fight, although I didn't really take that much damage. As you can see at the end of that turn, I'm still ahead in unit count. I'll just take out this recon. Nom nom. Use our transport copter here. Drop off the mech into the mountain. That's because I know, of course, Lusciel's got pretty much everything over here. So I would like to indeed threaten to go for the HQ next turn. And the comm tower. And then I want to make it so these recons and artillery, they can actually retreat and survive, so I can maintain a pretty healthy unit count. And then I'll grab the Neo tank to dissuade the anti-air count. You can see how easy it is for me to just generate an absurd number of mechs very quickly, so that the vehicles that, especially if they're trying to chase down my army, can get outnumbered very rapidly. Okay, so Lusciel has successfully defended this comm tower and this comm tower. But unfortunately, the HQ doesn't have any good unit to stand on it, and I am threatening that as well. I don't quite have the victory march here. So something that Lusciel should keep in mind is when you're playing against COs like Sammy and Eagle, who can just kind of win the game off of a super, you have to always make sure your units are not easy to trade into. So like this tank coming down and attacking this recon, it kills the recon, but now it's just like a very easy unit for me to sacrifice stuff into to give myself charge. Same with the placements of these anti-airs. This anti-air is in range of this battlecopter, which was known about. This battlecopter was also known about with this guy scouting it, and this anti-air is in range of it. So normally you're like you want your anti-airs in range of their copters so you can get them, but you also have to be a little bit wary. I know those anti-air physicians, but of course I don't know about them. But I have these handy dandy transport copters to scout out the entire movement range of my battlecopter to see if I can find myself an anti-air, and I do. And then I have a guaranteed victory march, just sacrificing myself into these tanks. I'll check to see if I can just grab this comm tower. I cannot, and I'll just zoom on over here, take out the HQ, and that's game. Yeah, Lusciel in danger. GG. Always be very careful with the placements of your vehicles when your opponent is going to sacrifice into you. So the Sammy plan didn't fully, you know, it was starting to develop. I was starting to get the huge mech presence in the center. I had the transfer copters, but sometimes you gotta disrupt the game plan to go for the victories. Remind me why Sammy isn't tier 3 in Fog again. Sammy is... It's because Sammy death spirals. But GG, well played. And it's also a double comm tower map, which helps Sammy a lot. Like a lot. The more positions that Sammy can threaten, the harder it is for your opponent to cover them all, as we saw. Next we got Stormtrooper versus Mad Caterpillar. Would Sammy struggle? I mean, Sammy will struggle versus tier 4. With both Sturm and Grit are allowed in tier 1 Fog Z games now. Nice. I mean, if you think Sammy's really strong in tier 4 Fog, have fun playing her. That is one tricky commander to pilot. Okay, we'll have Fred evident. This was your 3rd ever game on Advanced Wars by Web. Very nice. Against a 1000. There we go. Okay, we got Cycles to Gehenna. We've seen this map a few times. I think usually with a Kindle as one of the COs. In this case, it's a max mirror, so we're not going to have any funky... Well, we might, but we probably won't have very many funky indirect movements utilizing this like mountain range and stuff like that, which is pretty common to see. Instead, I would expect to see a lot of copters being produced. Well, this isn't the high funds one. This is just normal standard. Ooh, a max recon. Well, so there's a few things that going for early recons in standard gets you. It kind of forces your opponent to build a tank. Now, normally the recon, when you build it, it is able to actually find some sort of target for free. Doesn't look like it's quite going to get there this time, but it does force the opponent to build a tank on the front that you built your recon, which can protect your other front. So if you're worried about your opponent like building a tank on the double base side and attacking your one base side, you can build a recon, and now they build a tank over here, and you can just keep your recon around until you have your own tanks and then start a vehicle fight you like. Yeah, you can use max rockets. And we might see it this game, who knows? It's really max artillery that suffer the most. Want to pressure the center? In this case, it works. It actually does get a nice interrupt. Stormtrooper probably should have waited a turn before going for that capture, because now this tank doesn't actually protect that. So a very nice interrupt by Mad Caterpillar, and then you have the tank follow up, which is usually really good. Because if your recon has a tank guarding it, then suddenly them just having a tank is not enough to stop your recon from getting harassment. Because if your recon like hits an infantry and then their tank hits your recon and then your tank hits their tank, suddenly you're just way up in that value trade. Especially if they have to be on unhappy terrain to do it. But yeah, this does lock Stormtrooper into building tanks on the one base side, which does mean there's less of a threat for Mad Caterpillar to deal with on their own one base side, and the lower infantry count over here. So if the recon can get some more harassment in, that could be a huge economic downturn for the Stormtroopers. I think I would prefer if this recon stayed on this front, because this is now just kind of encouraging vehicles to start being built over here. And there is always a danger of a huge infantry swarm being backed up by vehicles and getting a lot done. There's almost a chance of a battleship here, yeah. But yeah, if you look at Max's day-to-day, his indirects have minus 10% attack, which basically doesn't matter because they have such a high base attack. But they also have -1 range, and that's what really, really hurts. Artillery going from 3 range to 2 range is just devastating for them. Rockets going from 5 range to 4 range, that's okay. That's still very usable. So if you use indirects as max, you usually see them being rockets or battleships. Because they can still outrange artillery, for instance. Here's Fred, making his way downtown, walking fast, faces past, he's homebound. Ooh, this is a nice, this recon's gonna get some more value. This tank is not actually guarding this capture. The recon makes it just in time for this interrupt. I mean, there's a lot of infantry to back it up and maybe just do a joint cap, but you know, it's still very nice, especially because it knocks it down to 4. Oh no, Fred! Fred's in danger. Okay, the tank's guarding Fred. Looks like we're gonna have a nice economic lead for Mad Caterpillar a bit. Income's even, but you want to be half a turn ahead, so Stormtrooper's a little behind. There's our joint cap. And here's our first battlecopter. It did have to come with a base skip, which is unfortunate. With double base skip, actually. Ooh, and on the one base side, that hurts a lot. The one base side is usually the side that's hurting for units. So to do a base skip over there is always very painful. What's the history of Fred? Fred exists because I made a video explaining why there's infantries for player 2, or in infantry on most maps. Okay, anti-air in response to a battlecopter. That seems good to me. And Mad Caterpillar is going to have plenty of money next turn to get a battlecopter of their own. What the community voted. Army is just an army of Freds. The recon should probably have retreated to safer grounds rather than... I mean, delaying this for another turn is cute, but it's not really worth it to lose the whole recon to delay it 1 turn. like it. Copter gets built and then it just goes to the front where the anti-air isn't currently at. That makes sense to me by Stormtrooper. I also like the deep copter being ready to get someone over here. There's 2 cities and a comm tower. I think that's definitely worth the tempo loss of building a transport copter. It's a little painful to just suck up the tank first strike here, but it does deny an entire city. And this tank will be able to probably retreat to safe and safely repair, so it's probably worth it. Since there's no other infantry around to really start this capture up again, I imagine that this will be delayed for quite a while. Ooh, Mad Caliper goes straight for the transport copter, much like what Stormtrooper is doing, just to get this island. But Stormtrooper had the airport much sooner, so there's a battle copter available. Not the same for Mad Caterpillar, so that's a nice little advantage that Stormtrooper got. I'm not super sold on this copter returning over here. I guess it's fine because there's enough tanks supporting it, but this is where the anti-air is. Usually you don't want your copter over there. Okay, this is pretty cute to try and make it so there isn't a great attack on this tank. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Although I don't know if 2 6 health infantries can kill a 9 health. They can definitely kill a 6 health on a city, I think, though. I guess I'll find out. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I guess it doesn't matter. This tank can strike from here. If they can kill this guy off, then the tank would love to attack from the missile platform. It's always very dangerous to dive in like this because bases can just kind of produce units that are perfect for the situation. And that means that most trades that happen within a base's range will favor the base owner. Looks like Fred survived, retreated from capturing the city, and is going to repair. Mad Caterpillar treating Fred well. We did indeed kill this guy off and they go through. And we get the tank for a strike, and then yeah, there's a medium tank. Oh, suddenly it's not great to attack this tank. Unless Stormtrooper can kill off this tank and then block off the medium tank with a bunch of infantry, which is almost doable, it looks like. This tank lives at 1. That sucks. Not quite sure where this copter went in for this attack. It does just kind of get picked off by this anti-air. The city still gets captured and the tank can just repair. Okay, there are more tanks following it up. Whoa, join tank into the medium tank. This isn't quite as good of a medium tank as we see up here. I'm not a huge fan of this because the tank count was pretty important to be for the fight over here, and the medium tank doesn't actually reach this fight, where the medium tank built by Mad Caterpillar has an immediate impact because it actually reaches the fight right away. That's just the difference between these two buys. In comes the medium tank. I don't think this tank needed to sacrifice itself. I'm pretty sure this max medium tank would just kill this guy. So I would instead go and repair that tank. I do like the interrupt though. I also enjoy. I also like the kill on that tank, and then I would go after these tanks pretty mercilessly. Ooh, Mad Caterpillar doesn't want to. Yeah, I would not be scared of these units. Maybe the battlecopter is actually a threat. I mean, it's fine to retreat. I would probably have attacked, and maybe it's not as good as I think it is, though. I just would have attacked him because the medium tank doesn't really help them. But this does mean that the anti-air can be threatened, so can be threatened to maybe killed. So very good on Mad Caterpillar to build another anti-air. So yeah, nicely clearing the way by Stormtrooper. He gets the kill over there. The anti-air does live at 3. And it can retreat to a city to repair. Unfortunately, these tanks don't, except for this injured one, don't actually reach this guy. Okay. Get the comm tower right away with Mad Caterpillar. You can see we've had some very nice economic gains here. 25 income to 18 is absolutely outrageous. I'm not a huge fan of these infantry walls unless there's going to be a lot of stuff staring at it, because this just gets killed off by the opposing infantry. But if there's a bunch of units staring at it, then that's a different story, because you can just get positive trades, because it takes 2 units to kill 1 unit, and then those 2 units are exposed to get hit by the whole army. Interesting. Okay, so I guess this medium tank's being built to deal with this medium tank. That's fine. I'm not quite sure why this ran away. Ooh. This is just a single... Oh no, it's double comm tower. Never mind. That's always guaranteed to kill. I don't think that it was necessarily a great idea to bring both infantries over here by Stormtrooper, especially after having like the double base skips and stuff. Those guys might be useful elsewhere. Bringing up a bunch of cities in the center is really good. Okay. Medium tank gets some nice little harassment in there. That. Yeah. Looks like at this point Mad Caterpillar is just going to try and stall the game out for a bit. I mean, being up 7k is a lot. So at that point, every turn that passes and nothing changes, you just get stronger and stronger in comparison to your opponent. We have a nice little attack over here. The anti-air can like go for a punch attack, but it's not that scary of a thing to do. Okay, so now 6k. Now it's a 5k income advantage, which is still huge, but it's good news for Stormtrooper. Being 21k versus 26k it's like not nice, but it's still winnable. You're at income levels where 5k difference isn't necessarily game losing if you manage to get some really good like composition wins. It looks like everything's just kind of building up at this point. Both players have got a power, probably a super if they want it. Mad Caterpillar manages to steal a city here. Now up 8k. We'll see if that's if that city's able to be held. It looks like it's gonna get cleared. And most of Mad Caterpillar's army is down here, so it should be possible for Stormtroopers to just kind of take that back. But there is definitely a threat of something. I'm not quite sure what Mad Caterpillar wants to do. Could try and go for a base kill. That might be what we have here. But there's unfortunately no infantry available to start the capture. Yeah, the bomber goes in and hits the Neo tank. It's just gonna be a bomber for Neo tank trade. Because there's both an anti-air and a fighter here. I'm not 100% sold on this attack. I do like the backup bomber. Let's see how it goes though. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I think these units might be just barely out of position. We'll find out. Okay. Okay, the anti decides to go for the bomber. Whoa, okay. Fighter be flying. A bunch of cities suddenly are now under threat. You have a medium tank built. The medium tank wasn't even built here, was it? It moved here. Oh no, you would prefer to you'd prefer to build something here. You kind of need more units on this front. I do like all of these properties being threatened by Stormtrooper though. It's pretty much what you have to do to try and get back to the game. The only thing is that you'd prefer to build something new and have this also on the front. Mad Caliber with the max force, it's going to get taken out, I think, by just copter, medium tank. Fred doesn't go for the base. Fred goes for the city next to the base, which is fine. Nice dive through. Get a bunch of attacks. Okay, so these cities have all been saved. It looks like this one will also get saved, but this harbor is going to go through as a capture. But yeah, the base is now looking super dead. So that definitely worked out for Mad Caterpillar. It was a two-turn play. Stormtroopers looks like they're going to go for the only thing you really can do at this point is try and do a base trade. Ooh, or maybe not, because these units decided to go elsewhere. I do like the lock that's being threatened on this airport. But yeah, I think that is just a resign, because this base is still up and running and fine. So GG, that early game recon ended up doing a lot of damage. And then that kind of snowballed into a really nice economic lead. Analytics tell us that only about 17% of Go7 watchers like the stream. Join the 17% today. Well, it's true. There could have been a run at the HQ attempt. That could have been good. Hey, Spider Sayers. This is such a fun map. Max always has Advanced Wars 1 max stats if he maxes out his comm towers here. True. Well played, well played. Okay, I didn't even know those players still played the game. We got Peach 2K21 versus Shoop. Peach is a player from I knew way back when. Apparently they still play. Yeah, that's Pinko, I think. Is that their name? I don't remember. They had a Discord name, of course. Work in school eat up a lot of time. Yeah, I understand, Mad Caterpillar. Oh, I understand. Yeah, this is a super fun map. We've got Drake versus Andy. A nice classic matchup for tier 3 fog. So both COs have different reasons for being good on this map that kind of are the same. So Drake is really good on maps with really big unit counts. So he likes really wide maps that you just have a lot of stuff on before the fighting really starts. And then he hits his super or whatever and just like does a ton of damage to you for free, hits all of your infantry so you can't capture things quickly, and the game just snowballs onward from there. Andy really likes maps that have a very long reinforcement route, which are often big maps. And the reason he likes those really long reinforcement routes is because that means when he hits you and then heals his unit, it's kind of like he's getting a gigantic tempo lead on you, right? To replace your tank, it takes like 3 or 4 turns of movement, but he gets it immediately, and that just like out pressures you, and then he can scoop up your cities, and he's happy Andy. So it's not that the map is really big and wide that Andy is happy about. He's happy that it's a really long reinforcement route. Drake's really happy because it's a big wide map, so there's just going to be a bunch of units to get hit by his powers. Sonja could be viable here, yeah. I mean, Sonja's technically viable on most fog maps. Would I say that Drake is the aggressor in most cases against Andy? Not necessarily. They're both kind of playing a game of chicken with their powers. So either one can be the aggressor. We'll see how these guys decide to go about it. Looks like Peach is going to go with an early recon, try and get some harassment. It makes sense to me. It's usually pretty easy to get some sort of harassment done on this side of the map. Andy can also be fine going with early recons. Looks like Andy's going to go with some really early transport copter. And Andy after my own heart. This does mean that there's going to be no protection against this recon. It's a little bit of a weird 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I guess Drake no longer has a black boat advantage, huh? Because there's bridges here, so you don't get the extra movement. Decides to just unload over here. Okay. I guess that's fine. Typically you'd unload over here, so you have an easier time getting to this city, but that's okay. Ooh. Infantry's making a mad dash for the corner. That does actually mean that this recon might get the interrupt on it before it can get the city. It depends on where this recon goes. If it goes here, let's see. If it goes here, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, that doesn't work. If it go, the tragic thing is if this recon moves onto this city, it will see this infantry, but it won't see this city. So the infantry will go onto the city, start capturing it, and the recon, despite knowing the infantry is there, will not be in vision range to attack it. So the recon would have to be gutsy and like go sit on these plains or something to stop this. Ooh, it's a very gutsy recon. It stands on the road, but that runs into the same problem that standing on the city does, which is it can spot this infantry, but it can't actually see the city the infantry is going for. So it will still like be able to bop the infantry, but not until after the infantry gets its capture. Ooh, fancy boosts. And then it's like you can attack this infantry going for the harbor, but do they have a tank moving on down here? Because recons are pretty common to attack this front. Ooh, Peach, no fear, goes for the swing. It would be pretty bad if a tank came out of these woods and just went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, bop. but it's probably fine. It's probably fine. And that's the best kind of fine. So that could be a time for Shoop to... I mean, it's always up in the air. Oh, this poor Blackboat's running out of fuel. You can just sit there and go for another capture point. And be like, sure, Recon. If you attack me, you'll have stayed here an extra turn. And I can very easily have a tank ready to take you out. Just go for some sort of bluff like that. We'll see what Peach decides to do here. The Recon does decide to run away. Rather than like hit this infantry, for instance. We have a very, very slight income lead here for Peach. I think because of this. Maybe. I mean, this infantry is going to be in trouble. Yeah, it gets taken out. Wow. That sucks so much. Yeah, that's not guaranteed to kill unless you have a comm tower, but it's pretty good odds that Recon plus infantry will get the kill. I think it probably would have been fine to just finish the own capture here rather than going for the kill. I don't know. I understand the idea. So the idea is Recon plus infantry get the kill, and then next turn this infantry starts capturing one of Shoop's cities, which is a huge value or income swing. You have the artillery approaching this, so we might be going straight for just a very quick HQ kill from Peach, while having very minimal defenses over here. The no fear approach. Well, because so few vehicles have been spotted on this front for by Peach, there should be a lot of alarm bells happening over here on this front, and after these cities get captured, these guys should just like run for the hills. Ooh, what happened to this infantry? Okay, for Shoop here, you attack this infantry and sacrifice yourself every time, because you knock this guy down to 9, maybe even 8 if you're super lucky. Doesn't really matter. And that makes this city take an extra turn to capture, which is a 2,000 value difference. Because every turn it's not captured, you get another 1k and they're not getting that 1k. I mean, it does mean that this Recon doesn't get to move because it had to stay and kill your infantry, but I don't think the Recon really wanted to move anyway. This city really probably should have had an infantry in range to capture it a while ago. It's okay. Ooh, Shoop. Super cautious over here. There's our big old income swing. Taking away your opponent's cities. Artillery pops in. It's ready to guard this Recon. I'd like another Recon heading on over here because this one's looking a little dicey. We have a Drake mech. Okay. Yes, this is exactly what I was saying. So few vehicles spotted over here. These guys just gotta run. They just gotta run for the hills. So well done there. Shoop very patient on this front. Starting to go for some more captures over here. Managed to still be very good. To be basically even in income despite Peach's harassment. And yeah, this is just going to get taken most likely. bunch of attacks. This recon actually survived. So Shoop was very much wary of the possible artillery in the woods, but so many attacks. Very nicely done by Peach. You know that all those units died. We're not injuring units against Andy, because that's how Andy gets a lot of value against you. And then, yeah, just continue to retreat. Just let the city go. Something that Drake does have an advantage of is the extra boat defense does apply to the black boat on the HQ. So plus 25% defense. So this full health black boat has 65% defense. Well, on a HQ. Which does mean, for the most part, Drake will win any straight up HQ race. If the black boat, like, gets knocked down to 5, and then Andy hits it with a super and heals it back up to 5, then that's pretty good too in these races, so that's pretty good. But in this case, Andy doesn't even have an artillery with this attacking force, so these tanks would take forever to kill this black boat. They might even run out of ammo, I don't know. It's better than Sturm level defense, it's 5% higher. Down goes the recon. Ooh, and then Peach is going to build a nice little wall here. So many units getting picked off on the front, which is something you do have to be very wary about when you're playing as Andy. You want to keep your units alive if at all possible. Something to also consider when you're playing as Andy is to go into some tech ups pretty early, because those are units that are pretty difficult to kill and give you a lot of charge when they get hit, just by costing a lot. Okay, with the attack on the anti-air, the recon lives, but we do clear through here. That's a bunch of strikes, looking pretty decent. Both of these tanks are untouched though, and we have the mech that's somewhat defending this tank. Not really. This tank didn't move. Shoop is so patient, maybe too patient. I do like that this tank is kind of straddling the differences of these fronts. It's guarding this recon, but it can come down here and help with this fight. We have a nice sacrifice, 4 health infantry, great sacrifice fodder. And this is where it can get very dangerous when fighting Andy. Like, you hit this guy down to 4. You gotta make sure you kill it off, and that's what Peach does. Yeah, because if you knock that down to 4 and then Andy just heals that all the way back up to 9, you suddenly just get a negative trade, and that can be really sad days. Ooh, we have the tsunami. Interesting. So in the matchup, you pretty much only use the tsunami when it's getting you some very valuable trades. In this case, it looks like it's killing a tank and like 2 infantry. That doesn't seem like it's enough to me, but we'll see. Andy can use the normal power to heal it off, or can use the super. It does also drain some fuel, which could be annoying. Looks like we're not going to use the power. The one thing I'm fine with Shoop retreating and just build up a stronger force and then smack it with a super or something like that. The one thing I wouldn't like Shoop to do is pay the repair costs on these vehicles. You can pay them on the infantry if you want. That's basically free, and it helps them remain competitive for capturing. But I mean, the repairing 1 health on a tank is the same as repairing 7 health on an infantry. Like, that's a cost that Andy shouldn't have to pay. And it left it a little exposed. This Drake mech is getting, I guess it hasn't attacked, but it's been, or no, it hit an infantry, but it's in some really nice spots. Okay, at this point, Shoop's been kind of just bullied out of all the fronts, which is definitely not what you want to have. So I agree with what Shoop's doing here. It's like you're losing the game. So what do? Well, you got to do a front switch. You got to make it so even though you've got a lower army value, lower army unit count, you can still achieve a local superiority and then translate that into a game-wide, like a board state superiority. So Peach is way ahead in unit count, way ahead in unit value. But if we look purely at this front, because Shoop's front switches away from all of these units, you can Shoop can still get a local superiority and get some positive trades and maybe get back into the game. But we'll see how it goes. Especially if Peach starts following the front switch, things can get really dicey. If all of these units stay guarding this like capture, then it's possible for Shoop to get something done. But it looks like these units are going to follow, so I don't think we're going to get quite a large enough local superiority to make the difference that's needed at this point. But it's definitely the tactic to use. Are we just not going to see an Andy power? Oh no, we're not going to see an Andy power this whole game. Yep. Very nice. Look at that. Peach making sure to kill off the units. If you can't kill off the unit, don't even bother attacking it usually. Yeah, like this, the recon probably shouldn't have even attacked. I mean, it's fine as a recon into an infantry, but it's probably not even needed. Okay, things are looking, at this point, I don't think even front shifting would matter. And Shoop has resigned. GG. Definitely a little too hesitant. I liked a lot of things Shoop was doing. The front switch was a good idea. I think kind of missed out on the game of chicken with the power. Both players can use their normal powers to try and like pressure out the opponent pretty nicely. I think on there was a little bit too much of reservation on Andy's side attacking on the top. Probably could have gotten both cities, but that's okay. These things happen. And very nicely played by Peach. GG. Okay. I don't think we saw this. I think we saw a different To Athos game, but if I start recognizing it, I'll move on to the next one. GG. We have an eagle mirror on To Athos. Everyone's favorite mirror. Place. Yellow comet. Left. Base to the right. Okay. You smell pipe runners? I guess you could get a pipe runner. I think I've seen it. They're pretty useless. I guess they can defend your HQ maybe. Okay, here we go. Oftentimes, eagle mirrors can come down to who gets the super first, because you can deal so much damage to your opponent that their own retaliatory super just does nothing. So that's usually what it comes down to. We'll see how it goes. There's some obvious reasons to choose Eagle on this map for tier 2. The triple airport on a base light map usually means that there's a lot of air units, which means that Eagle has a nice advantage due to having stronger air units, and also Eagle's anti-airs can kill twice as many units on those super turns. We have a little bit of a recon harassment here from our Eagle in yellow. Because this is a pre-deployed vision map that is scouting this front, it can make your recon harassment towards here very safe because you know exactly whether or not they have a tank or not and how far it could possibly be. I am not a fan of this map, and I'm really not a fan of these pre-deployed recons, but that is my taste. Other people like it. They have terrible taste, but that's okay. We can't all have the proper values when it comes to map making. Okay, so we have this nice little harassment here. This recon's been doing well. It's killed off 2 infantry. And again, it's going to feel very safe doing this because of the perfect information of the units generated on this front. I didn't see where it went before it went attacked, though. Yes, everyone is entitled to their own opinion, but some of them are just wrong. There's only been, I think, 1 map that I approve of the pre-deployed recon, and that was the Frozen Fire map that was in the, I think, Smacky Cup 1. And that's because it was a single base against a double base, but the double base had a recon spying on them. So it was a recon that helped you defend it was like pre-deployed vision that helped you defend against the attacking forces rather than one that helps you attack and just eliminate some of the defender's aspect of fog. So I like that one in that particular map. But I don't think I've seen it in a way I like it in any other. Because usually it's used to know all of the information of what your opponent's doing on either a front that you're equal on or advantaged on. Unit count wise in production. Okay. So Yellow Comet doing a good job controlling the center here. I mean, there was a really nice recon harassment. At this point, SamiWaifu has managed to make up for a lot of that, but when it comes to just with fighting, but when it comes to owning properties, Yellow Comet here, Miguelayton is Miguelayton, maybe it's like that, is way ahead. For some reason, SamiWaifu is breaking down this pipe seam with a copter. That's something that takes forever. The preferred way is with an artillery, as we're seeing down here. Or an artillery and like one supporting unit. It went to the sea with a 9 health. Sorry. Anyway. So SamiWaifu way behind when it's going to this economic game, but doing pretty well vehicle count wise. Except for having this copter spend so many turns just knocking down this pipe seam. From Miguelayton, this is not something I would recommend. Just way overextended with your foot soldiers on this front. They're probably going to get eaten up. And this is a base light map. 1 base per front. So these foot soldiers should really last you like the whole game. You're not going to have another period of time where it's going to be easy to produce foot soldiers like it is at the very start. So you really, really want to preserve those guys. Otherwise, you'll get stuck in situations where you just can't capture anything. The fog map pool needs less pre-deployed recons, but more pre-deployed submarines. I guess I'd say the map is probably better without the pre-deployed recon, but I also just don't. I'm not a huge fan of the base light maps either. Okay. Ooh. So Miguelayton was able to go for some of these very early captures, but it doesn't look like they're quite able to hold them. A part of that is because overextending is a slow and insidious killer. Speaking of, actually, I guess this is the same thing. This copter is feeling very comfortable to attack in here because it's no anti-air has been produced over here, and no copters move through here. So if SamiWaifu's been paying attention to this pre-deployed recon, suddenly the copter can just hurl itself forward. And be fine. Normally you would not want to do that though. That, however, I'm not a huge fan of the recon sacrificing itself to do 4 damage to an artillery. It's just going to get gobbled up. Like so. Copter doesn't quite guard these units, so it might look like SamiWaifu's plan like is in shambles because this infantry that was capturing the city went down. But the real value of that is that vehicles had to expose themselves to counterattacks in order to kill off an infantry. So you get like ridiculous trades in that regard. But at the same time, killing off this infantry on a base light map can make sure that your cities just like never get captured ever again. And in the long term, you can lose quite a few units in order to still come up cost effective there. Ooh, I'm surprised this copter didn't try and get a smack on this tank. Because a tank could hit this recon. It would do more damage than the copter would. And this copter could just go ham on this poor tank over here. Not a huge fan of this tank attacking from this tile in particular, just because it leaves this city open as a striking point. Here comes the recon. Probably, unless the money doesn't line up nicely, probably should have done a repair on the recon first. Yeah, it would have been possible. We do have a Neo tank. Neo tanks are pretty good. They can be a little bit dangerous to use in the mirror, because if the opponent Eagle gets a bomber, it can just kill your Neo tank from really far away with a lightning strike. Yeah, this is ending up working out pretty well for Miguelayton, as that copter was able to come in here, get the good smack on this tank, and then the injured units can retreat, and the anti-air is covering against the opposing SamiWaifu tank or copter. So, excuse me, well done there. I do really like SamiWaifu just kind of being like, that was a unfortunate engagement. I'm gonna just go transition my front switch into the middle with this copter, get some nice trades there. Again, it's going for that local superiority. With the front switch. This infantry probably should have gotten out of there. As we can see, there's now not a single infantry on this entire front for SamiWaifu. Admittedly, there's only 2 4 health infantry on this front for Miguelayton. It becomes very difficult to replenish your infantry counts, as you can see. You kind of just want to keep building vehicles from these bases. We'll probably see transport copters coming back to these back lines to pick these infantry up and bring them into the fight. Ooh, SamiWaifu, they do both have lightning strikes available now. Tragically, the copter gets trapped on this recon. Neotank comes down here and says hi. I assume we're going to see a lightning strike now. Here we go. So usually getting the first lightning strike can just kind of win the game because of how much damage you can do. But I'm not 100% sold on that being the case here. We'll see. This copter's actually out of ammo. That was a really weird move. This copter should definitely attack this 4 health infantry because this copter has nothing better to do than to kill this tank. Okay, the Neotank's going to go over here. I was not expecting that. I thought the Neotank was just going to pop this tank. Okay. So that wasn't the most devastating lightning strike I've ever seen. So it's possible for Miguelayton to kind of come out ahead in the lightning strike wars, especially because these units are within shooting range of an airport. Now, something that could have been considered is some sort of join to get a bomber out of here, so I could like hit the Neotank and hit an anti-air or something. But we'll see how this goes. Copters are pretty darn good. Ooh, the black boat is deleted. Looks like we're just gonna ignore the Neotank. That's always one of my favorite strategies. Okay, so after that, it does look like SamiWaifu is a little bit in the gutter when it comes to unit count and value, but not unrecoverably so. And there are some overextended units to attack with here. I would have this infantry just go and retreat into these woods, so something has to go and ferret it out. Ooh, that's a little bit of an annoying play. It just forces one copter to come over here and clear the way. I would be a little more careful with these infantry, though. There's not very many of them left. The Neotank should probably have left these woods. I don't know why it just stood here. Okay, yeah, both the tanks run away. This is looking very good for Miguelayton here. Yeah, the transport copter was built just to transport an infantry, a single infantry. Well, it's gonna get 2. But yeah, that's just kind of the point you get to on these base light maps. This city has not been captured, but otherwise they've split the map fairly evenly. There we go. We have our bomber to deal with the Neotank now. We got a fighter in anticipation of the bomber. SamiWaifu does have a very slight power charge lead here. Ooh, unfortunately, this infantry actually survives in the woods, so it could lead to some exposed units being attacked. Okay, Miguelayton striking on in here. We do see the Neo tank over here. The bomber moves on over. The fighter isn't quite in range of this bomber. We also have a battleship built by SamiWaifu. Okay. Eagle battleships do have a minus to their firepower because they're a naval unit. Minus 30% firepower. But they do get to fire twice on lightning strike turns. Hey, Fluffy. There we go. It fires this. Decent damage to the anti-air for sure. Neo tank just kills off a tank there. I'm not a huge fan of where the fighter ended up staying. I prefer if it was over the water. It's still going to be like easy for the anti-airs to attack, but at least it would be slightly more difficult. Whoa, Miguelayton goes for a lightning drive. Eagle normal power to kill the Neo tank in the woods. Lightning drive increases, I think it doubles Eagle's normal power, or his day-to-day. The air units get plus 30% attack instead of 15% and plus 20% defense, something like that. As well as just the plus 10 that you normally get. And then it looks like Miguelayton times out for the rest of the turn. Floats 22k and doesn't build another unit here. Fortunately for Miguelayton, we don't have full health anti-airs in range of the bomber, but we could just build another fighter and immediately lightning strike it down here. That's exactly what we do. Transport would just be scouting. Here comes the lightning strike. Battleship decides to take out an anti-air. Makes sense to me. Fighter comes in, hits the bomber. It actually survives due to that extra defense of the normal power. But yeah, that's a pretty decent lightning strike. Definitely value-wise, SamiWaifu is looking a lot better. And because lightning drive was used, there was no charge gained from that lightning strike, which hurts a lot. Especially in combination with base skipping last turn. Miguelayton's just gonna dump some money here. Go fighter, anti-air, anti-air. Might have been better to go anti-air and then just pump out of just gonna triple battlecopter maybe. I don't know, but we'll see. Very greedy move by SamiWaifu. I don't know. I don't even understand why these units need to attack in here. It's going to be punished pretty badly. Anti-air gets taken out. Copter gets taken out. Wow. That tank really wanted blood. It does spot a medium tank. The Neo tank comes over. We do have a lot of these cities being captured. So, I mean, there was that lightning strike. But we do have a slight economic edge still for Miguelayton. Especially infantry edge is looking really nice. What on earth is this fighter doing? What is that? So SamiWaifu should just retreat over here. I guess this was... I hit the anti-air so that my copter can interrupt this capture. Well, it's going to be a very painful turn. SamiWaifu is running into the problem of having no foot soldiers. They kind of both are. But... oh, this poor medium tank even gets hit from the Neo tank from the city. The transport copter makes it all the way back to this airport to refuel. At this point, like a fourth of SamiWaifu's army value is this battleship. It's definitely gotten some work done, but you can't keep very high hopes for this thing. There's an airport right across the way. Ooh, one health battlecopter being annoying, getting some scouting information. Okay. Battleship plus tank kills the recon. Recon kills the copter. Tank does some scout and fighter goes for fighter. But now Miguelayton has a lightning strike. Surprised that SamiWaifu wasn't able to get the next lightning strike first due to how many losses we had there. I guess Miguelayton had just enough of an early charge lead there. Yeah, here comes the battlecopters. This is why it's very dangerous. Even Eagle battlecopters can beat up these battleships. So many low health infantry. Okay, I think this will be a lightning strike to end the game, most likely. Airport's being sat upon, battleship gets taken out, and then Miguelayton times out again? So most of the lightning strike doesn't happen, but it was enough. SamiWaifu resigns. GG. It must be a live match. That was a live match. That makes sense. The Eagle normal power did end up winning, but boy, was it a close one. Got fyram versus Savage the Beasts. This will be the last replay of the day. This guy managed to get through 5. That's pretty good. Yeah, they were almost down to no infantry. Kind of wish Live Leaks timer was a tiny bit longer. I wish it was longer too, you know, like several days. But that's just me. That's just me. Let me fire him into a couple. Sure. Savage the Beast is already yellow comet after all. Okay. Got a Jess mirror. The way they go. Normally with these Jess mirrors, you're going to see a lot of vehicles just harassing infantry. And I think tends to be some pretty good artillery use. We do have one artillery already on the way from fyram. Savage the Beast just sticking with the tank recon. And then another tank. Kind of the standard composition. Looks like fyram might be going for a very early pipe seam break with this artillery. Savage the Beast just sticking with the tank recon composition. If you're ever trying to like learn the game, especially for fog, I would recommend this kind of thing. Maybe even delay the recon longer. You just stick with a bunch of tanks so that they can just kind of win all those early game fights that you might get yourself stuck into. And Savage the Beast is now going to go with an artillery, so far slower than fyram. It's kind of in response actually to fyram shooting at this pipe seam. this should give Savage the Beast the confidence to go for any early game engagement because of how much faster this artillery was in comparison. So there should be more vehicles out on the map for Savage the Beast due to this early artillery. It is kind of a gamble to go for an artillery this quickly. I don't think is ever really needed. It's basically saying, I bet my opponent is not going to go for some early harassment against me, and I'm so confident I'm going to leverage that to get a slightly quicker reinforcement advantage by shortening my path, like a few turns before my opponent will. Which could be really good if you get into a brawl during that short amount of time and that stops you from overextending, or it makes it easier for your opponent to overextend into you. But for the most part, that kind of thing isn't going to matter if it's done super early in the game. So I would usually suggest not going for the very fast pipe seam break, and instead just wait a little bit until you have a front you actually want to be sending your reinforcements towards it faster. That's fine. It's fine. It doesn't matter. This is definitely the thing that fyram wants to do, though. Make sure the fight's happening on the front that you broke the pipe seam on, so you have your nice reinforcement advantage, and hopefully get something done from it. Okay. There's the beast retreats. Attacks into the artillery range, so it's a little dicey. For sure. Does kill off this infantry going for the capture. But yeah, this is kind of what fyram wants, because this is the front that has the pipe seam broken on it. We'll see. You have to be a little bit careful with your artillery. Because you don't want it to fire, and then since it has to stay there, it gets just wiped out on the following turn. We'll see how it goes. We do have a fairly early anti-air. I don't quite understand the anti-air being on this front, because the copters are most likely going to be moving down this way. But that's okay. Some pretty good attacks here by Savage the Beast over on this. Leaving the tank on the city, so it's fairly defended. And lots of infantry backing it up. There's a lot of pressure on fyram to bring down some units from this front and try and stabilize this. And this is what I was talking about, where you're like, you don't necessarily want to fire with your artillery on the tank, because they can break through and smack it. But in this case, the artillery does survive. So that's probably fine. I like it to have made 2 videos about this map. Well, that's pretty cool. I do like the Neo tank, the double Neo tank from Savage the Beast. We'll see how much they can get done. This is, oh my gosh, this is always one of those really tough decisions. You're like, I've got my power. Do I dive in further? And it's usually the answer is no, unless you can just wipe out all the units. Because even though you get like a really nice trade here, you have to present more targets to them in order to do it. Killing off the recon is nice, though. And this might be a case of use the normal power, I use the super. Somehow Savage the Beast is going to be still ahead, I guess even, in unit count at the end of that. So yeah, it's going to be use the normal power, I use the super, which will unlock. Something that's nice about the super here is it lets this Neo tank hit this tank, which makes this attack from this tank just like super negative value. Down goes that infantry. There goes that infantry. Really targeting the infantry. I mean, the anti-air could probably have been used to help kill off this anti-air. That's okay. Yeah, I don't know about attacking that infantry there. I think this 4 health tank, this anti-air might have been able to take this out. Maybe not. Yeah, Neotank says hi. Neotank says hi. And a double Neotank on this front is pretty nasty to deal with. Yeah, both pipe seems broken down here now. Yeah, transport copter. That's pretty interesting. Okay, so this tank decided to retreat and heal up. You probably could have attacked if it wanted to, because it has a really nice firepower boost with the super active. So that wasn't the worst possible turn for fyram, but that was pretty bad. Especially having both Neotanks come in and get those smacks and then are now covering the entire front line. That's pretty nasty. You love the elegant move. I'll have to watch them. Anti-air goes for the attack down here. We definitely have strong side versus strong side, and there's the little weak sides fighting it out at the bottom left here. Retreat with the tanks. Ooh. fyram decides to keep up the engagement a bit. The anti-air did get hit, so this copter isn't going to be completely wiped out, but still dicey for sure. Okay, we're just going to fall back with everything. Looks like it. Okay. They are completely even on income. I'm not a huge fan of all these infantry just kind of being sacrificed by Savage the Beasts, but that's okay. Ooh. Unit count and unit value wise, Savage the Beast is really far ahead here. fyram has a little bit of a charge advantage. We're going to go into a rocket. Savage the Beast is definitely thinking long term. Thinking trying to stall this out a bit. Transport copter to get more infantry up on the front lines very quickly. You got the indirects coming into play so they can take up a position and just kind of lock properties and or zone the opponent's army. In theory, it does also create weak points that if your opponent breaks through and manages to hit your indirects, you can just kind of start to crumble. But yeah, here they go. They're starting to break the little stalemate that was just like this really long line of units in a row. I would highly recommend once you start entering into this kind of end game of fog, you want to produce just a lot more recons so that you know where your opponent's army is at all times and you can just kind of outmaneuver them and get some really good first strikes in. In a mixed vision match, one player gives other player vision. How big of a tier difference do you think there needs to be to make it even? If they're of equal skill level, and it does depend a lot on the map, it would have to be a really big tier difference. If it's like a traditional fog map, you will get just so outpositioned, it's ridiculous. Because a lot of like a lot of these properties, in this case, fyram's like really thinly spread, so it'd be even worse. Like you can't just have an army like this sitting around where your opponent knows exactly where everything is being covered and stuff like that. It is it's not a fun experience. Would not recommend. I don't think you could, there's really a tier that makes it even. They're very different values. On some maps, it doesn't matter too much because they're like really kind of small and it's just brawling anyway. But on the big maps, it would make a huge difference. So Savage the Beast is making a lot of headway here. The main point of this attack is not really to take the comm tower, or if Savage the Beast thinks it's to take the comm tower, then They're in a dreamland. The real point is that units have to expose themselves to kill these units, and then the rest of the army can just like jump in. Be happy. I think this rocket did not actually fire on this infantry. Maybe it fired on a recon. I thought the rocket got scouted. Yeah, here we go. Ooh, fyram doesn't use the super. Savage the Beast could definitely get a super off here. But decides to just back off. That makes going for the comm tower a little bit silly. That's okay. Savage the Beast way ahead in unit count here. Now everything's been really coalesced. You can see they both are kind of lacking in the vision department a bit. They have a general sense of where the big armies are staring at each other. Like, this is the kind of thing that will happen all the time if someone has perfect vision and you don't have perfect vision. Just every time you've got infantry trying to sit around to guard cities, the infantry will either just get killed off, or all of your cities will just get captured and the infantry will be blocked off and that kind of thing. Hi, Sammy. Okay. So, something that can be very valuable. Yeah, okay, this is much better vision. But something that can be very valuable when you have these really large standing armies facing each other in fog is to just throw recons forward to spot where your opponent's stuff is. Because losing one recon when you have a really large standing army and plenty of recons is basically nothing. If you throw your recon forward and you can then maneuver your entire army to like wipe out theirs, you'll just win the game at the cost of a single recon. Or if you're about to move your army forward and it would be putting itself in striking distance of your opponent's army, then you lost a recon instead of losing your whole army. There's a really big upside, and the worst downside is that you just lose a recon for free, which is often fine. So we are going to go into the super here. In comes quite a few Neo tanks. There's still 3 more. I assume they're going to go after these medium tanks. Like so. And then just a tank. And then the artillery. And then a tank. Get that tank. Not quite a surgical strike, but pretty nasty. fyram does have 3 Neo tanks, but even if they're all getting first strikes, they're going to get first struck back by opposing Neo tanks. This is looking super GG, but fyram is going to go for it anyway. Wow, that Neo tank won the 1v2. 1 health versus 2 health. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Wow, this Neo tank, even without the super reaches, is just very unfortunate for fyram. That's pretty much GG. I guess it's just gonna be on this next turn. All these cities get captured. The rocket is covering them. Wow, this Neo tank isn't even used. Or I guess it's gonna be used to hit this tank instead. The artillery was enough. And another first strike, yeah. Yeah. That is just super GG. fyram's still sticking with it. Okay, and the fyram resigns. Well played, well played. I hope people enjoyed. Ooh, I got there just the perfect time in the stream. Hi, Subby. Bye, Subby. So sorry. I hope everyone enjoyed. I leave you with an apple, and we will be back of stream on Wednesday. I might try a lively game. We'll see. We'll see how I'm feeling. No promises. No promises, but I might try. Thanks for watching, everybody.
It's Go7, king of the penguins. Of all the penguins, he is king. It's Go7, king of the penguins. Being king of the penguins, that's